How's it going, y'all? My name is Aiden Anderson, and this is the Moscow Minutes. This video is going to be a little bit different than those we've done before, and that's because this is our first weekly report on Latah County. In this video, I'll be giving you a brief introduction to the public county meetings, as well as a summary of what went down at the meetings of this week starting January 23rd, 2022. Let's get into it. The three Latah County Commissioners typically have two major public meetings a week on Mondays and Wednesdays. The start and end time of these meetings can vary depending on what needs to be discussed, but they're usually well scheduled and planned out, with different times for different meetings and items to be discussed. This is different from a Moscow City Council meeting, which is usually at the same time every other week, but whose meetings can vary from week to week depending on what needs to be discussed. There's less of a definite schedule there. Those present for the Latah County meetings include the three county commissioners, Kathy LaFortune, Tom Lamar, and Dave McGraw, along with the county clerk and any other representatives or staff that are needed for the discussion for that day. The public is also welcome to attend. One important element of a Latah County meeting that is less present at a Moscow City meeting is the executive session. Now, as outlined in Idaho public meeting law, under certain specific conditions, government officials can convey meetings that are exempt from public disclosure, meaning that the public is not permitted to listen in on the discussion or the proceedings for that meeting. This will occasionally happen at the end of a Moscow City Council meeting, but it is not unusual at Latah County for an executive session to take place in the middle of a given agenda. Typically, the public will be asked to leave the room for a period of time while the executive session takes place, and then once their discussion is over, the commissioners will let the public back in again. An example of this that took place this past Wednesday was a meeting with the county prosecutor. And as that is an attorney-client type of meeting, the county commissioners held an executive session to have that conversation. If you're attending a county meeting as a member of the public, an executive session is an important thing to keep in mind. All right, let's dive into more of the details of this past week's meetings, starting with the meeting on Monday, January 24th. The county commissioners dealt with a number of items labeled in the agenda as approve/deny, sign, and file action items. It would be really tedious to go into detail in this video about what all of those items were, but in short, this section was a number of contracts, agreements, grant applications, and licenses, which, having already been processed by the county, now need the commissioners' signatures to go into effect. Unlike Moscow City action items, the county action items typically don't warrant extended discussion by the commissioners. An example of such an action item from Monday's meeting was the renewal of a bunch of retail alcohol beverage licenses for Latah County businesses, including, but not limited to, the Moscow Brewing Company, Myelina, Hungadunga Brewing, and the local Moose Lodge. After approving this long list of items on Monday, the commissioners went into executive session to do a personnel review regarding timesheets, and the public meeting was pretty much concluded at that point. Now on to Wednesday, January 26th. There was a much shorter list of action items this day. The commissioners approved the polling places in the county for the March 2022 consolidated election and also approved a donation request for solid waste disposal fees for the Pat Rush benefit, an event coming up in Kendrick, Idaho in February. They also approved an Idaho Department of Welfare Reentry Services grant. The commissioners then went into executive session for a client-attorney communication. When they returned from executive session, the commissioners began a discussion of updated COVID policy for county employees. The results of that discussion being their decision to abide by the current CDC guidelines, including an updated timeline for quarantine if an employee does get sick, and requiring 3-ply N95 or KN95 masks for Latah County employees to take effect on January 27, 2022. Next up, the commissioners had a workshop discussion about federal ARPA funds. Both the City of Moscow and Latah County have been recipients of ARPA funding, with both entities forming their own plans as to how best to use these funds within their own jurisdiction. As this was just a workshop, no official obligation of these funds was made to a particular project, but a request for more immediate funding was addressed at this workshop. The request came from the Palouse Affordable Housing Trust, which, if you recall from our covering of Moscow City meetings, has requested ARPA money from the City of Moscow to be used in construction of a new affordable housing project in the region. The city's model is reimbursement-based, meaning that once the money is spent on the project by the Affordable Housing Trust, the city will reimburse them out of their allocated ARPA funds. As it turns out, however, the trust needs more funds in order to effectively begin these projects that the city plans to reimburse them for. And so they turned to the county for additional funding before the project begins. Accompanying the representative for the Palouse Affordable Housing Trust were representatives from PEP, or Pathway for Economic Prosperity, along with their executive director, Gina Tarusio, who is also a member of the Moscow City Council. These representatives, including Gina, outlined a few details regarding the need for immediate funding on the project, as well as the benefit the project would provide to Latah County. This request for funding was ultimately well received by the commissioners, and Commissioner LaFortune recommended that a more detailed discussion be had at the ARPA committee meeting on the subject. The commissioners then moved into another executive session to undergo an internal staff performance review, and the public meeting was essentially concluded at that point. And that is what happened this week at Latah County. I know there's a lot of information there, and there's still much more to cover on the subject of the county. So if you are interested in learning more, I would recommend checking out the Latah County website at latahcountyid.gov. It's all one word, latahcountyid.gov. If you want to learn more details about specific issues or examine particular documents, the best way at this point is to put in a request at the county clerk's office, which you can do on the Latah County website. As always, we'll have relevant links posted with this video, and if you have any questions, let us know. This is Aiden Anderson with the Moscow Minutes. See you next time.